Hi, this is Xiangqing. Today I will introduce an architectural approach to level design by Christopher Totten. You can tell from the title that this book is about taking architectural and spatial design principles as inspiration for level design. At the beginning, Christopher gives working definition of level design as the thoughtful execution of gameplay into game space for players to dwell in. Then, by analogy with Roman architect Vitruvius' architectural elements, Christopher divided the practical elements of level construction into functional requirements, usability, and delight. First and foremost, the function requirements means your level should facilitate gameplay and embody the rule sets in the game space. Then, for usability, it requires your level to be easy to navigate and easy to learn, so that players spend more time having fun and less time figuring out how to use the space. Last, delight refers to providing players with an engaging and rewarding experience, which can elicit emotions from players. Next, let's dig into the level design from the most basic building block, modular asset. In a level construction perspective, modular assets bring standardization and flexibility. However, we're talking about level design, so we need to think of modular assets as experiential element. In Christopher's opinion, the reason why modular assets are significant to level experience is that they are symbols in visual communication. They bind visual representation and gameplay mechanics together and repeatedly appears in the player's mind. Then it forms a unique symbolic language of a game. A good level teaches players to gain literacy through symbolic interaction. After talking about assets, we need to arrange them in a space by following spatial layouts. We can use some traditional architectural drawing techniques to do some early planning. You can do a plan drawing or a sectional drawings to plan your spatial layout efficiently. Then you can work with isometric drawings to demonstrate your level design concept. Until now, we haven't taken players into consideration. Player characters are important measurement metrics in games. Christopher suggests that spatial size is a relative concept in relation to its occupants. Spatial sizes are divided into narrow space, intimate space, and prospect space. Narrow space can create tension by giving space scarcity. Intimate spaces allow players freely and comfortably apply their inherent abilities, while prospect spaces are wide open spaces which can create anxiety and fear since players are open to attack with no cover. Up to this point, we have discussed several isolated game spaces. Then how can we link these spaces together in interesting and meaningful ways? Architects used proximity diagrams, also called bubble diagrams, to conceptually draw relationships between spaces. In level design, there is a similar concept called molecule design proposed by Macmillan and others. Similarly, molecule graphs are represented in nodes and lines. Dotted lines shows that spaces are viewable from one another. Arrow solid lines represent one-way paths, and thick solid lines indicate direct two-way paths. What we should note is that both proximity diagrams and molecule graphs are not spatial plans. They are abstract diagrams conceptually showing the relationship between spaces. So, one molecule graph could lead to multiple spatial layouts of a level. By far, we've finished the first iteration of level design. Then how do we enhance the experience in the second iteration? Let's revisit each stage of our first trial. On the modular asset or symbolic asset level, we could make the game space a possibility space. In Chapter 8, by studying the case of miniature garden, designers should allow players to understand what can possibly be done in the space. This can lead to what designers Ian Bogost calls procedural literacy. Procedural literacy is the familiarity with the rules of a game and how they function with an established possibility space. Such cause and effect procedures could be a powerful communication tool called Procedural Rhetoric, which uses game rules as a system of communication. This can make the player be able to envision the possibility of game space, making them expect the unexpected. In Chapter 6, Christopher talks about enticing players with rewarded spaces. Types of rewarded spaces are vaults, visitors, meditative space, and a narrative stage. We can also make rewards more rewarding by denying players immediate access to them. Also, we can pace and schedule the reward by sophisticatedly arranging the spaces. Chapter 5 is about creating exhilarating experiences by touching human beings' primal survival instincts. Christopher discussed the architecture of survival, which provided insights for creating paths through the use of prospects and refugees, for the use of lightning through shade and shadow, and for the use of height. In Chapter 9, urban design was introduced to guide and integrate social interaction into a multiplayer game space. There is nothing more emergent than the interaction between people. Topics like urban emergence, new urbanist principle of mixed-use game space, and etc. are introduced in this chapter. Last, I would like to talk about rhythm. This is actually an emergent finding while I was making this book report. By rearranging the book in this way, I found that the rhythm can be designed to appear in almost every stage. By organizing the experiential elements in each chapter in a dialectic fashion, we can create rhythm within this dialectic structure of difference.